Ask yourself, what are you doing now to help you improve in the future? What is up, everyone? Welcome back for episode 3 of the off-season, the short series where I'm talking about things I'm doing through this winter season to get ready for spring paddling whilst I'm not kayaking so much. This week I'm talking about physiotherapy, injury rehab, and injury prehab, which is trying to get your body ready for being back on the water and preventing future injuries if you're not even injured right now. So you may have heard me whining like a little baby at the end of 2020 that I had back-to-back shoulder impingements on my left shoulder in the spring, my right shoulder in the fall, and that was frustrating. And I was whining like a little baby about it. Really, it's not that big of a deal. Shoulder impingement is a pretty broad category of like niggling shoulder injury where the ball and socket is just not quite flowing properly because of muscle imbalance. And the way I've been tackling it is I found a good physiotherapist who has a good handle on like what whitewater kayaking is and the kind of movements that we're doing and how to get that joint kind of back to stable again and kind of flowing properly so that it's back to like 100% function and pain-free. And that's kind of what we're building towards. And he's got me kind of on a setup of these they seem like they should be easy, but they're not always easy. Exercises working on smaller muscles in my upper back here and in the front of my shoulder just to try and pull that joint back in together. Now, the reason I'm not right now speaking and overlaying videos of what my exercises are is because there's no like one size fits all approach to getting your joint health back to 100%, whether it's your shoulders or your knees or your hips or your back or whatever it is, or your ankles. There's no one size fits all solution. So I'm not showing you the things that I'm doing right now specifically because that might not be right for you. And actually, if you just try to start doing some random exercises for shoulder health, they might lead you to have unhealthy shoulders because they might just further imbalances that you already have. So I'm going to give you a couple of things to think about if you are going to go down the road of trying to get yourself back on track joint health wise. The first thing I did was find a good physio who has a bit of an understanding about what whitewater kayaking is. Now, this is not the cheapest way to go about this, and I do pay to go to see a physio, which means I can't go as often as I want. But you know, when I can afford to go, I go and check in with him, and I have seen a noticeable difference. So for me, it's worthwhile. I understand that I'm in a very privileged position where I can put money into my body health as a priority and I don't have other responsibilities like family or a mortgage or whatever. So I understand that this is not going to be the solution for everyone. I'm going to talk about some other things you can do in a second. I found a physio that I like that's really good and has a really good understanding of what I'm doing. He came recommended to me from another friend of mine, a kayaker friend of mine who's also a physio, but is not in my area anymore, so like couldn't just see me himself. We'll put a pin in that, we'll come back to it. And working with him, I kind of showed him some videos of like the types of kayaking we're doing and the kind of strains that my shoulder joint was under, and kind of along with an explanation of what it feels like and where my pain level is at, and then he did some examinations and stuff to figure out what the best course of action was for me to get my shoulders back on track and get my kind of shoulder health mobility back on track, right? So that's like the pathway that I'm on. Now, like I said, I appreciate not everyone is able to do that, and that brings me on to my next thing. If you're struggling from like shoulder or joint health in general, ask around your kayaking friends, and you might be surprised to find out that someone knows someone who's a physio who can maybe see you on the cheap or like do a little like trade deal. Maybe you have some skills that they need, they have some skills that you need, work out something like that. That can be a really good solution. And like I mentioned, I have another kayaker friend who used to live in my area, who I used to go see like just at his house and be like, yo man, like this is what my problem is, and he'd recommend some solutions for me to work on that. And that had been really good in the past, just wasn't an option for me anymore, which is fine. The other thing you can do, which I do advise with a lot of caution is you can Google roughly what's wrong with your shoulders and try and figure it out from YouTube. But like I said, shoulder health, shoulder mobility, shoulder strength, shoulder flexibility, all these words all have slightly different meanings, and they're all really important for your joint health. And you do have to be really careful when you're Googling around that you don't start down a path of one idea, because that might not be the problem you're actually suffering with. So if you can see someone, that's probably the best outcome. Try and find someone who is recommended in your area who's really good, and you might have to see a couple of people like initially to find that person who's the right fit for you, and they have like an understanding of what you're looking for, right? So just kind of keep that in mind when you're shopping around for physios, right? They provide a service. They're not all equal. It's the same as like mechanics for your car. They're not all the same. Some places are really good, some places aren't. Physios are kind of the same. They're a mechanic for your body, essentially. And then the final thing to say on whether you're doing preventative strength and flexibility and mobility work, or whether you're doing, like me, you're kind of doing that like rehab style work, is you've got to just put in the work and put the effort in, and it takes a long time. It's really frustrating, and I'm like laying on the ground 5 days a week with a soup can in my hand, like, you know, lifting it up, lifting it down, and it's still really hard, but it's slowly getting easier, and you do have to persevere, and I have to remind myself of that quite regularly, that I do have to persevere. It is going to get better as long as you keep doing the work. And if you just go see a physio one time and then don't do the work that they prescribe for you, you're probably not going to see a big improvement, right? And that's kind of on you. So keep that in mind. If you don't do the work, you're never going to see a change. So yeah, this has been kind of episode 3 on what to think about for rehab, prehab for your joints, whether it's your shoulders or your knees or your hips or your back or wherever you're experiencing pain. Highly recommend finding a good physio in your area who kind of gets it. Don't be afraid to show them pictures or videos of what you're doing, and try and explain as in detailed as you can, but also in the most concise language you can, because they have a very limited amount of time. What you're doing and where you're trying to get back to, right? Where you were before, and where your 100 is. That is all I've got for this week, and I will see you in a future video. Let me know in the comments below if this was helpful or not. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, I don't know. Yeah, I'll see you next week for episode 4 of the off season. Peace.